Being ready doesn't mean being the right time for you. It just means you have to be ready to take a step and move forward towards that opportunity, no matter how prepared you feel sometimes.
Welcome to Behind Their Success. This podcast is for people who are feeling stuck on their entrepreneur journey or in their careers. It's for people who want to scale and grow their businesses, learn about the power of mindset, or they just know there's more out there and they want to start making changes. I'm Peyton Squires, the host of the podcast. I was never cut out to be an employee, and when I was an employee, I was bored out of my mind. So I made a plan. I studied and passed the CPA exam in 8 months while working, all with the end goal in mind of quitting my job and starting my own business. I did that in 2014, and it's been an amazing wild ride since. So now let's hear from other entrepreneurs and what mindsets, and probably more important, what actions they have taken that have created and led to their success.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Behind Their Success podcast. I am Peyton Squires, the host, and today we have on Nata Salvatore. She was born in Brazil and came to the U.S. in 2003 with $30 to her name and couldn't speak enough English to order food at a restaurant. She came here on a student-athlete scholarship. Her journey since then includes spending 10 years as a physical therapist and a speaker. Fast forward to now, and she's traveling the world as a destination wedding photographer and a photographer educator, as well as hosting a podcast called The Accidental CEO. She has built multiple six-figure businesses from her small home office in Jacksonville, Florida, and she is most proud of the fact that she did all this while staying true to her original dream of helping people while doing something that she is passionate. Nata, welcome on the show.
I love that. That was such a good intro. Thank you. Look how far we've come.
Yeah, sometimes it's really interesting to kind of take a moment and reflect back a little bit, right?
It's always fun. When I was recording the first episode of my podcast and decided to recap my story, it was like, whoa, it's a lot.
Yeah, and just different people I interview on this show, just kind of high driving entrepreneurs, are usually terrible at celebrating those things. Because we're often so quick on to the next thing, right? Where you're conquering and moving forward. And at least I struggle with celebrating wins.
Yeah.
And taking that time to look back is something I should do more of.
Yeah, definitely a skill that I had to learn and now make sure that I teach to my clients because it is important. Every little win should be celebrated because they accumulate to just building your confidence and helping you move forward grow as a person and grow in your business. So
that's awesome. So, I gave a little bit of your background here. So give us a little color to that story.
Yes, I was a professional volleyball player in Brazil and I had the opportunity to come play here. So basically didn't speak in English at all, was just playing over there. And because I sent the wrong email to the wrong person, it's basically how I ended up here. So thanks to not knowing English, I ended up in the US, believe it or not. So had a scholarship to go to college in Arizona. Did my first 2 years there. Transferred to Virginia. Finished my undergrad degree there. Played Division I volleyball. And then moved on to get my doctorate degree in physical therapy, which is something that I absolutely loved to do. Treating patients and helping people was always near and dear to my heart. Worked in the field for 10 years, trained a lot of people, built programs from scratch, concussion program, residency programs. I have residency and fellowship training, dual board certification. So you could say I was doing really well in that career. And then kids came along, changes in work came along, and I decided to try something else and figured out what would I do if I wasn't a physical therapist anymore. And I had 3 options on my list. I remember them. It was either go back to school and be a surgeon, go to medical school. The ideas of surgery, I love that. I've been into the OR many times. Or would I do some interior designing, which I also love, or photography? Those are my 3 options. So I started with the easiest one, less overhead cost. Started as a side business, very quickly grew into a very sustainable business. And during COVID, when people were closing their doors and struggling, I actually made 6 figures. So I figure if I could do that during those times, that I could probably continue to be successful after that. And that's how my first business as entrepreneur was born. And from there, just kept on, helping people was always something that it's part of who I am. And I was missing doing some teaching and mentoring. So started Accidental CEO as my coaching and education company and have been helping other entrepreneurs grow their business and in mindset. Mindset is a big thing for me. So I really focus on that because I don't believe you can grow as a business if you don't grow as a person at the same time. So really important to me to focus on that. And then from there, I just grew up a couple of other businesses with apps and Airbnbs and podcasts and all that. So here we are.
Very cool. So, that's an interesting transition. I'm sure that took some courage there for sure you built a successful business or as a physical therapist, and then to move away from that. Tell us about that decision. How scary was that?
Yeah. So it was definitely something that took me a while to think about in this side. It's not like I was struggling in that career. I was actually very successful, respected and recognized nationally. So it was to step back from that and start all over in a world that didn't know me, that I didn't know anything about. It was definitely scary, but I think what I did and what I teach people to do now is take some time to reflect on what is it that is scaring you? What is it that causing that fear, the hesitation? Put it down on paper, write it down. For me, it was making sure that I could make the money to help maintain my family, maintain our lifestyle, and continue to pay the bills. So money was the main thing for me and making sure, because starting over in a new place where I don't know anything wasn't nothing new to me. Coming to the country without speaking in English and not knowing anybody, so I've done that before. That wasn't the fear. The fear was, can I make enough money to sustain this, unstable income kind of profession?
Yep.
So I put that fear down on paper and then I moved on to make a strategy to take care of it. So I saved a year's worth of expenses before I quit my job as a physical therapist. So if I had booked one session for the entire year, if I was failed miserably, I would still be able to contribute to paying our bills and taking care of our family. So that gave me the peace of mind and the support that I needed to step to this new adventure, into this new situation.
Yeah, I like what you described, what you did there, right? Like you took the fear or the thoughts you had in your head and put it down on paper, right? Got it outside of you. That alone can just be really powerful. And then you made a plan, right? You made a strategy, you examined it. You didn't do anything stupid, right? You prepared.
Yep.
So it's a matter of just making a plan and preparing, right, beforehand. That's going to quell your fears a whole lot as you explore doing something like that. That's something I've really learned over the years is writing things down. I've gotten better at that, doing journaling type stuff because I'm kind of a high driving, almost anxious guy that my mind's always going.
Yeah.
And the only way to calm that down is to get it out.
Yep, that helps a lot. I feel like if you don't take the time to really figure it out what it is that's bothering you, then it just keeps on going and it grows and it just snowballs it. So taking the time to reflect and understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling is very important so they can move on to the next step, which is to address that and solve the problem. So big proponent of putting things down on paper to address it.
Are you looking for a new tax experience? Looking for an advisor that actually brings you high-level ideas and proactively plans so you aren't overpaying your taxes? Or how about one that even just responds and communicates in a timely fashion? If any of that resonates with you, you probably just have a tax preparer and not a tax planner. And it is through the tax planning process where all the value is found. I'm Peyton Squires. I'm a CPA and owner of WR Tax Planner. We work alongside entrepreneurs and high-income earners, helping them pay the least amount of income taxes, both legally and ethically. We have saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars through specific strategies, and we guarantee we can find multiple tax saving strategies that your current tax preparer hasn't told you about. If that interests you, head on over to the contact page at PeytonSquires.com. There you can fill out a contact form and get a call booked to see what it would look like to have WR Tax Planners on your team.
So Nata, you've had a lot of different success in a lot of different areas. What do you say is your best skill? What's your best skill that helps you be successful?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of a couple of things. One is resilience, right? So continue to move forward and keep going, even when things don't feel like they are going perfectly for you. So I'm a very resilient person. I'm very confident in my abilities to make things work and to learn. So if I know that if I don't know something, I can learn. Throw me anywhere. I'm going to buckle down and learn what I need to learn to be successful. My husband, who is very supportive and has been a huge supporter of this transition and everything I've done in my entire life. I remember having this conversation with him when I was thinking about leaving healthcare. And I said, I don't know, do you think I can do it? What do you think about this? And he said, you have never done anything in your life where you haven't been successful. Like you give 110% and you always do well. Why would this be any different?
That's super powerful to point out is that you'd already had the evidence, right? Like you have already proven to yourself. You could look back that, hey, I showed up here as a young girl that couldn't speak English and I figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I think, is a combination of that resilience. A huge thing to remember is that take some time to look back and see everything you have accomplished. Sometimes people say, I'm horrible at I can't take tests. I can't pass on tests. I was like, well, did you drive here? Yes. You pass a driving test at some point. So you can't tell me you can't pass any tests. You can't tell me you've never done anything right. So people are very quick at discounting their past accomplishments very often. So, it's good to stop and remind yourself of everything you have accomplished so far and that you can do it.
Yeah. And that's, it's interesting. There's a podcaster out there called Tom Ballou. He has a show called Impact Theory, which is pretty big show, but he talks about what he calls the only belief that matters. And the only belief that matters is that you believe you put enough time and energy in anything that you can get better at. And ultimately everything just comes off that. But like, as long as you have that belief, that growth mindset type belief, that's the only belief that does matter to helping you accomplish it.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
So looking back over your time, what would you credit as the best decision you've ever made?
Oh, it was definitely send that email that went to the wrong person that earned me a scholarship to play volleyball. So I always talk about that was the best mistake I've ever made. And it was literally because I didn't know English. I had this email address. I was talking to a coach in Kentucky about a scholarship. I didn't have a computer in my house. So I had to go to my dad's work at the end of the day to use the computer that he had at work. I had to take a dictionary with me and try to put sentences
Try to figure it
together.
out.
Yeah, God knows what those emails look like. And, there was one time one of the emails that I sent bounced back. I think it's what back then you had a limit on your inbox. And if you hit that, you couldn't get emails anymore, like a voicemail. So I got that email bounced back and I was like, what do I do? And this paper that I had, it was his email on top and it was CC to somebody else. I didn't know what CC was. And there was another email there. So I just tried that email instead. And that ended up in Arizona in another coach's inbox. And that's how the whole thing started. He asked if I had already signed with the other place. And he asked the person who gave me the contact about my volleyball skills. And without ever seeing me play, offered me a full scholarship to college. And it was, again, the best mistake I've ever made.
This story's so powerful. In one way, it's like you're always one email or one relationship or one connection away from just completely changing your life.
Yep.
And the other lesson I would take away from that is that it's a little humbling to realize that so much of this stuff is even out of our control, right? In life, in many ways, we're just along for the ride. Like you had no way to plan that or how.
Yep.
But life takes us for a ride, and it's just kind of important to set your intentionality and your North Star in the direction you're heading, and then just kind of ride along with life. That's good.
Exactly. It didn't matter how good of a player I was. If I hadn't sent that wrong email, that opportunity would have never had happened.
Yeah. And that's a matter of, I talk to a lot of different business owners, work with a lot of different business owners, and it's a lot of it's just planting seeds. You just plant as many seeds as possible. Like that email was you planting a seed, and you never know what's going to come out of any of that stuff.
Yeah.
if you don't plant seeds, nothing will come, right? So you gotta just plant as many opportunities as possible, and at some point you'll just get lucky, and it'll go to some coach in Arizona, and you'll get a
Absolutely. Yeah, I was listening to a book this week and the person was talking about being ready for whenever the opportunity knocks and the opportunity has its own time. It wants nothing to do with your time. It doesn't care about your time for things. So it will most likely knock on the door when you're in the shower, in the middle of taking a shower, and you have to make a decision that not being ready, you're still gonna get out of the shower, grab a towel, and go answer the door and go hang out with the opportunity, or you're gonna hope the opportunity waits for you and finish your shower and go get dressed, put your makeup on, put your clothes on, and then go answer the door. And most likely the opportunity won't be there anymore waiting for you. So, it's making those decisions of being ready doesn't mean being the right time for you. It just means you have to be ready to take a step and move forward towards that opportunity, no matter how prepared you feel sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and my kind of thinking around that, it's like you just need to be waiting in the wings, preparing as best as you can possible, so you see that opportunity and you're in the best position possible to pounce on it when that thing shows up. Because if you're looking for opportunities all the time, every once in a while you're going to see some massive opportunity,
Yeah,
and if you jump on it, execute, it only takes one of those to be like life changing.
absolutely. I'm here to prove it.
So on the flip side, you said, greatest decision was sending the email to the wrong email box. What's one big mistake?
Hmm.
And we've all made tons.
Yes, yes. I struggle, and it's funny because I ask that question to my guests sometimes on my podcast, and I know I struggle to answer that question, not because I don't make mistakes but because I don't hang there for long. Very quickly turn it around into, okay, what can I do about this? What can I learn about this? Let's move on to the next thing. I think sometimes taking too long to do a couple of things. One, taking too long to delegate and get help on growing your business is a big one. And we've all been there. When you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you start this business, you put all your heart and soul into it. And then it's really hard to let go of parts of it and let somebody else take care of it. So I would say be willing to delegate early in your life so to allow yourself to put on that CEO hat a lot quicker and grow your
Mhm.
business. And that's something I could have done definitely earlier in my entrepreneur journey. And the other thing is look for help and mentorship and coaching early. Don't wait until your business is not doing well, until you already invested a ton of money and time into it to then go get help. There's no reason to learn from your own mistakes when you can learn from somebody else's mistakes. So,
Much cheaper.
yeah, so invest on getting some help, getting some coaching and some guidance. Invest on education. We change our cars oils every 3,000 miles. We should be changing our oil every 30,000 miles and in learning and evolving as a professional. So invest in education early and delegate when appropriate is my two big things that I should have done earlier.
Um, guilty of both of those things
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
I really started my business as a solo entrepreneur and grew it into, a firm, but took me forever to feel comfortable delegating anything. So
Mhm.
severely limited me. I had mentors, but I wasn't as intentional as I am now. And now I surround myself with highly successful people and people doing all the things that I aspire to do.
Yeah.
That just opens up so many possibilities in one's mind when you're around those types of people.
It makes a huge difference for sure.
So one more question for you, Nata. What's one piece of advice you'd give to that girl that showed up here in 2003 in the United States? If you could tell her one thing, what would you tell her from your perspective?
So I will tell her that it's okay to deviate from what you understand as norm, right? And in the state of the population and the state of things. So to me, I always knew and learned that to make money, you had to have a degree and you had to go work for somebody else and make that money and climb the corporate ladder. And that's how you become successful. And understanding what I understand now, I will not be pushing my kids to go get a college degree. I can tell you that right now because I left with tons of debt that I didn't have to have. And now I make my money with something that I self-taught. So understanding that it's okay to deviate from the norms, which I've always been aware, but I think, especially coming from another country, I was looking for the boundaries of what I needed to do and how things worked here. Not that it's much different in Brazil. Like having a degree is considered important. You are bound to be successful if you have a degree, and it's not necessarily the case. There's still a lot of professions that are needed out there, and they make a ton of money and don't have to go through a college degree. So that's what I will probably tell her.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'm sure, especially coming here from another country, you probably really even more felt those pressures. But even then, me as a person raised here and stuff, those societal pressures on people are like, hey, this is the normal route. This is, especially my age and the time I went through college, based off the time you arrived here, we're similar age. But basically everybody coming out of high school was like, well, if you don't get a college degree, like you're going to end up living under a bridge or something, and that was just kind of like the mindset, right? All society pushing people into that, which for a lot of different professions, that's great and it's needed. But for a lot of different professions, it's really not. And being self-taught is much, much more powerful.
Absolutely.
So Nana, what, people like what they hear. You're doing some coaching stuff. What's the best way people can connect with you or interact with you?
Yeah, I love telling people about the app. So I have an app called Accidental CEO. It's a great place to connect and get a little taste of me teaching. If you look up Accidental CEO on the App Store for both Apple or Android, you should be able to find it. And then you can also connect on Instagram, accidentalceo.co. Send me a DM. I love to chat and point you in the right direction if there's something I can do to help you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Is anything else you want to leave for the listeners?
Oh, just keep on going, guys. You just put your efforts at 100%, get motivated, know what you're going after, and get some mentorship and some help, delegate. Keep on going.
Awesome. All right. Listeners, thanks for checking out the show. We will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.